All right, welcome to the Hank Haney. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hank Haney Podcast. The Hank Haney Podcast is brought to you by Bet Online, which is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football, from the NFL to college. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. You can think of it about all your stuff. Get in on the winning take all $300,000 NFL survivor pool for this season. And when the game's over, head on over to the online casino and get in on the game of either blackjack or poker and unwind with one of the over 150 slot games. Head to the website today, use the promo code BLEAV and get in on the action. Bet online, where the game starts, betonline.ag. You can see the Hank Haney podcast on nofilter.net. You can also see it on the Hank Haney channel, Hank Haney Podcast channel on YouTube. And you can hear the Hank Haney Podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcast. So today I want to talk about the season-ending win on the LIV Tour by Jon Rahm. I'm up in Chicago, and I actually had some friends, multiple friends, that went out to the LIV tournament. And they gave me a little report. Now I didn't go myself, okay? And I have to say that after coaching on the PGA Tour for over 35 years and having been to somewhere between 15 to 20 tournaments a year on the PGA Tour, I am kind of tournamented out. Now, I am a little interested in what the LIV looks like, but I kind of know what the LIV looks like because I'm a member at some great clubs, Discovery Land clubs. Mike Meldman, owner of Discovery Land, has some of the greatest golf clubs, I think the best golf clubs in the world. Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, El Dorado is one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Gaza Ranch in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The Madison Club in Palm Springs. Just Vaquero Club in Dallas, where I lived before we moved to Arizona, before we moved to Chicago. And his golf courses and his clubs have a very relaxed atmosphere. It's not that they're not super nice. I mean, they're like beyond super nice. They are the most exclusive clubs in the world, but they're very casual. There's music playing on the driving range. There isn't any dress codes to speak of, and it's just it's a looser atmosphere. Now that is what. Now I'm old. I mean, I'm 69 years old, but that's what I prefer. Now I've been a member at other clubs that are much different, and I have worked at a lot of clubs that are much different. But my preference is the casual atmosphere. I know that's what LIV has. So a lot of people, when they go to the LIV, they go, "Oh, I don't know about the music." But then once they get there, like a friend of mine, Ed Sherman, went, and he said, once I got there, the music didn't bother me. It was a little loud around 9 and 18, but it didn't bother me. And I know what it's like out there. It's casual atmosphere, younger crowd, and not so stuffy, if you will. It's different. It's different. I got nothing but good reports. Matter of fact, I have to tell you this. Like, I have people that tell me about LIV, and they tell me they don't like watching it on TV. They can't follow the scoreboard. They don't like the announcing. I mean, they give me a list of things, but I've never had anybody that went to an LIV tournament that honestly didn't think it was really, really good. And most of the time, the people that think it was really, really good are the people that had a negative attitude going into the tournament. The people that had a neutral attitude going to the tournament or a positive attitude when they went to the LIV tournament, they thought it was absolutely great. It was absolutely great. So I had nothing but good reports on the tournament in Chicago. John Rahm wins the tournament. He won 2 out of the last 3 tournaments on the LIV Tour. He won in England. He lost in a playoff with Brooks Koepka at Greenbrier, and then he wins at Chicago. He wins $4 million for the tournament win. He wins $18 million for the year-end tournament. He finished top 10 in 13 out of 14 LIV events, or 12 out of 13 LIV events. I guess he got one more to play, the team event. So he finished top 10 in 12 out of 13 events. The only one he didn't finish top 10 in was he had to withdraw with an injury, and that was a real injury, not a play bad. I'm going to say I got injured, because that was the injury that kept him out of the Masters, where he had the foot infection. So he had a heck of a year. Through the year, when he wasn't winning, people were saying that John Rahm is regretting going to the LIV Tour. It's a big regret. And they were reacting to, I think, a couple of his comments where he didn't know about the 54 hole event. And of course he was questioning that. But when you're not winning, you if you've been around touring pros like I have for as long as I was, they always come up with some excuse to deflect the blame off of themselves. So one of the things that was available to John Rahm earlier in the year, when he wasn't winning, but he was finishing top 10 every time, was that the tournaments were only 54 holes. And 54 hole tournaments are exactly what they have on the Champions Tour, the Senior Tour. And those tournaments are more like the LIV. It's a little more of a sprint versus a marathon. Although 72 holes is not much of a marathon, but it's a little bit longer race. Let's put it that way. So if you get behind or you don't start off great, it's kind of hard to catch up. But if you have a great first round, or you're playing on a golf course that's extremely hard, like the tournament in Chicago at Bolingbrook was a really difficult golf course, which was interesting because a lot of the people that live in Chicago doing, oh, I can't believe they're playing at Bolingbrook. They're going to tear that place apart. And then they go out there and all the pros said this is like a major championship test. I guess the greens were rolling like 13 and a half and the rough was deep. And they sure they didn't shoot very low there. I mean, it was like it played like a major. But when you look at the thought process that the players have with a 54 hole event versus a 72 hole event, it's you got to get off to a great start. And if you don't, you're probably playing for top 10, which is what John Rahm finished like every tournament that he played in. But when he did get off to a good start and he was able to finish it off, like he did at the tournament in Chicago, and like he did at the tournament in England, and like he didn't do at the Olympics, and like he didn't do at Greenbrier. But back to my percentages, he won 2 out of the last 3 tournaments, 2 out of the last 4, if you're counting the Olympics. And of those 4 tournaments, he had the lead somewhere on Sunday. And for players who win and for players who have won, I've said the statistic many times, players who have won more than 3 majors, They win, and they did win one out of every three times. They were in serious contention, and you're not going to win them all. But Rahm has won two out of the last four that he's been in contention, and he won the last tournament and got the big prize, the big money prize. So Rahm gets up in his post game celebration. Of course, they spray the champagne on him and give him a ring for finishing first and winning the season ending deal. And he gets up and he gives this little talk, and of course he talks in a positive way about LIV. Uh, all of that garbage that was thrown out there by the corrupt golf media about Jon Rahm not being happy on the LIV tour couldn't have been further from the truth. He said he had a phenomenal experience out there this year. He loved playing all over the world, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, England, places he hadn't been before. He said the crowds were fantastic. When they played in the United States, it was fantastic, but it was fantastic when they played in the overseas events. And he's looking forward to next year when the first four tournaments on the LIV Tour are overseas. And they're really taking golf to a different part of the world in many cases that are golf starved. And that's why they're paying these countries or the tourism department or whatever, whoever it is that's paying, is paying LIV reportedly, between $200-300 million to go to these places and to have a golf tournament. If that is the case, and I don't know if those numbers are true. You can't. I mean, you can believe about half of what well, maybe half of what you see in the media. But if those reports are true, and they're getting those big fees for showing up at those tournaments, that shows what Greg Norman has talked about. The CEO of the LIV Golf, what Greg Norman has talked about is that there's a big pent up demand for worldwide golf, and that demand is out there, and they're paying these big fees for LIV to come there and play, and that is good for the game of golf. It might not be great for the PGA Tour, although we're going to talk about that a little bit as well, but it's definitely great for the game of golf worldwide. No doubt about it. And the players love it. The players love spreading the world. And you know what they really love? They love the money, because it's all about the money. It's all about the money. One of my good friends, former PGA Tour player, when I said, back in the day, I said, what would you have done if the LIV had offered you the money? And he said, show me the money. That's what he said. He said, show me the money. And you know what? A lot of people have taken that money, and a lot of people wish they would have taken that money. And a lot of people are jealous that people did take the money. And a lot of people that didn't take the money and aren't jealous that they took the money are happy that all this money is now everywhere in golf. Scotty Scheffler made like $64 million this year on the PGA Tour. $64 million. Now, $25 million for the season-ending tour championship or the bonus or whatever. Now, where do you think all that money came from? That money came from the LIV. If it wasn't for the LIV, the players would not have played for the amount of money that they played for this year. There is no two ways about it. So everybody in the game of golf, not just John Rahm, who got a reported 300 or 400 million for signing with LIV. He didn't just get money. Everybody got money. All the top players, especially, got more money than they probably ever dreamed possible. And it was all because of the LIV and what it has done to professional golf. Now, what has it done to professional golf? It has made it so that top players are making a lot more money and they're playing a lot less. And I don't think this is going to change. This is what I knew this was going to happen. And when everybody was talking about, we're going to ban these guys from playing and they're not going to be able to come back and play on the PGA Tour and da 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 da, and they're threatening them like they did. It ran them off. And that's still going on. John Rahm had to appeal to go play on the European Tour events because he wants to get in 3 events at the end of the year this year so that he can qualify for stay eligible for next year's Ryder Cup. And he had to appeal to go play those events because they don't want to let him go play without paying his big fines. And by the way, reportedly, LIV has paid something like $20 million in fines to the European Tour. So really, the European Tour or DP World Tour, whatever they call that thing, is pretty much been supported. If this is true, and they've paid those big fines, they're pretty much being supported by those fines from the LIV Tour. So they're benefiting as well. The people that are losing out are the fans because they don't get to see all these players play. But my point is this: even if the players could play, even if players on the LIV could go play in the DP World Tour, even if players on the LIV could go play on the PGA Tour, I don't think they'd play a lot. I really don't, because I think the players are very, very content with the fact that they are making more money and playing less. And that to them is the best combination. That is what you call having your cake and eat it too, which is the most talked about phrase. I see it on Twitter all the time. I saw it on Twitter again the other day. You can't have, this is what they say, people in the media. They say, you can't have your cake and eat it too. That's what they say. Now that's a great little catchphrase, isn't it? You can't. Well, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think Scotty Scheffler's doing when they chase off a lot of his toughest competitors and they raise the purses to the point that he made $64 billion last year? What do you think he's doing there on the PGA Tour? You know what he's doing? He's having his cake and eating it too. And when John Rahm signs for $300 or $400 million and goes to the LIV Tour, and he only has to play 14 weeks in a year to make the amount of money that he's making. And by the way, I think he banked something like 40 million or something this year. He made 25, or what did he make? 25 million or 24 million at the last tournament. He won another tournament for 4 million. That's 28. He finished top 10 every single time. I mean, my God, he had to make 40 something million. And you know what? He had 40 million in 14 weeks. What do you call that? You know what I call that? I call that having your cake and eating it too. That is called all this having your cake and eating it too. What are these people talking about? The only ones that are not benefiting are the fans. Why in the world do they think they are punishing people by telling these players they can't play? This makes no sense at all, because they wouldn't play but 2 or 3 tournaments anyways. And I don't get it. I don't get the he can't have his cake and eat it too. What does that mean? What does that mean? He can't have his cake and eat it too. That's on the big thing. And then they go, decisions have consequences. And I'm thinking, oh man, they sure do. John Rahm just made $40 million this year. And he signed for 300 or 400 million. Yeah, man, those decisions have, and people act like he's upset. Like, oh, I wish I didn't do it because I can't play in the Phoenix Open. Oh my gosh, come on. I mean, you can't possibly be serious when you have an opinion like that. I mean, seriously. Would he like to play in a few PGA Tour events? Sure he would. But you know what? If he doesn't, show me the money. That's what he said. And that's what a lot of guys said. And they're very happy about it. But something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something's going to change because they rumored last week, and they picked a weird date to do it. They were meeting the Public Investment Fund and the PGA Tour and their players and the players that are on the board and Tiger Woods and Monahan, the commissioner, and they were meeting in New York. They met in New York on September 11th. Can you imagine that? That is the weirdest thing. I think I can't even fathom that they played that whole 9/11 card when all the players signed with LIV. The PGA Tour played the 9/11 card, and then they went and signed an agreement with the LIV Public Investment Fund to negotiate a deal, and then they went and they met on 9/11 in New York. That's what it said. I read that on the X, on the Twitter. I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. I mean, that is, whew, wow, that is strong right there. I mean, my goodness. But something's going to happen because the PGA Tour and the LIV are both going to exist. A lot of people said LIV was going away. It isn't going away. And people said it was going to be over by now. It isn't going to be over. They already got their schedule for next year. They got plenty of money. I think they're doing better than what people think. They need to get their TV thing straight. But that ain't going to happen until they figure out something with the PGA Tour. And they maybe need to change their format a little bit. I don't know if 54, 72 holes. I hear this all the time. Oh my God, people on Twitter. It's not a real term. It's only 54 holes. I said the other day, I tweeted out the other day, I said, is it is a car race, a NASCAR race or an IndyCar race that's 250 miles race, not a race? I went to one at Milwaukee Motor Speedway. It's 250 miles. Well, it was great. It wasn't the Indianapolis 500, but it was still a race. Is a 100-meter race at the Olympics not a race because it's not 200 meters? Is a 200-meter race not a race because it's not 400 meters? I mean, is a 100-meter breaststroke not a race because it's not a 200-meter? I mean, this logic of it has to be 72 holes. It just escapes me. I don't get these arguments. I mean, these ones, I just keep hearing them over and over and over again. I just don't get it. I really don't. All I know is this, and I'm just reiterating this. This is all I know. Is I can't believe how much money the players in professional golf have made this last year. It is absolutely unbelievable. And deep down, every one of them has to think, man alive, what a pay raise we got because of the LIV. Because that is the bottom line. Hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. Hit the follow button on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Check out all the great programming on nofilter.net. You can see the Hank Haney Podcast on the Hank Haney Podcast channel on YouTube. And remember my Voodoo Pain Relief Cream. If you have arthritis pain, you have to try that product. Go to voodoopainrelief.com. It will help you tremendously, and it's 100% absolutely guaranteed. Hope everybody has a great day. We will talk to you soon on the Hank Haney Podcast.